Well, ladies and gentlemen, we were talking about drop tail and we thought the fish I caught at 74 was drop tail. We then realised it was fudgies, and by some crazy coincidence, I now have drop tail in the net. Jake has done an expert job of netting it for us, came on the left-hand rod on that all-important IQD rig. Absolutely nailed he was. And the cog system had dumped the lead as well, so textbook fight, fought like an absolute demon, and didn't weed me up fortunately this time. And there he is. Last time out at 68 pounds, so it could be another new 70. We've transferred it, sort of taken the net apart, slid it into the sling as always, and we're going to lift it out of the water in the sling. Absolutely important to do that. And then if we just check his fins before we pick him up, if you just want to take the tension there, Jake, just go up a little bit further. If his fin is bent back forwards and you lift him up, you can break it off. So you want it flat against his body. So we just find his massive head down there. And that fin's fine, nice and flat against his body. And then this one, the same, flat against his body. Right, we can take the strain now, Macy. Oh, up we come. Oh, that's heavy. Okay, let's have a look at the prize. I've definitely caught you before, my lovely. Yeah,
it's definitely 100%.
Top of the tail.
Drop tail on the top.
Oh, yeah.
Slip this mesh away.
Yeah. Oh, no, not yet. Oh, God, mate, that's angry. Whoa. What a carp.
67.5.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yep.
Come on! Get in. What a creature. Amazing. Right. There he is. Drop tail, 67.5 pounds. Another one on the IQD rig. Oh, size 4 capture curve. And that banoffee. Oh, come on, fish. Oh, and that all important banoffee hook bait. What a creature. Oh, that is big. Get on the IQ.
My friend. Yeah. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. This better not come off. A morning bite on my birthday. Please, please be a gigantic big one. It doesn't feel a bad fish, but it's so hard to tell until they come in close, and then depending on the amount that they're moving, you start to work out whether it's a cheese or not, or a grand fromage, the big cheese, we like to call it. And this one feels heavy again. And the size of the fish off the baited areas seems to be getting bigger. It's that old feeding pyramid. The bait keeps going on the same spot. They're gorging themselves on new grange and cell. And the hook bait tipped with our IB maize. I've got a cell hook bait on this one, tipped with a bit of IB maize. Once again on the end trap soft, choddy hook, hybrid leg clip, 4 ounce swivel distance, the dark matter tubing, and then subline as my main line, which is absolutely superb. Not only does it sink like a brick, it casts like a dream, and hopefully this won't give me any trouble. It's hard to work out what this is. You never know. It could just be a 20 pounder, a 30 pounder, or it could even be an 80 pounder. But I don't think it's as big as some of the ones that we're catching. Oh yeah, there's a 40 pounder, I reckon. I've got it, mate, I've got it. It's trying to take me under my own boat. Here we go. It wasn't the monster we thought. He's got smaller and smaller as I played him. Well, the commons seem to be loving this spot. This is a 35 pounder, another stunner from Gigantica. And I tell you what, the bite was really twitchy, and I doubt you would have registered it on anything but a Delkim. Let's have a look at the Delkim range right now. I've been a Delkim fanatic now for over 15 years, and I still shudder when I see people using roller alarms. Now, one of the main reasons I say that is because Delkim has a main signature feature, which is the vibration system. And why that's better than a roller buzzer is quite simple, really. You get a lot of nightmare stories of people when they've woken up using a roller buzzer, they've had a take and it's not even registered. The line can sometimes flick to one side of the roller. On other occasions, the actual line can freeze in the roller buzzer in extreme conditions. That will never happen with a Delkim. The vibration system is adjustable, so you can have it super sensitive or almost no sensitivity whatsoever. And that's got its uses for different conditions. So let's have a look at them. So the Delkim has a plus and minus sensitivity setting. Now, in most situations in the UK, or where I'm fishing France and I'm sort of carp fishing for big carp, I prefer to have it on the plus setting. I normally have it on plus and either 2 or 3. Now that makes the alarm quite sensitive. Let me just show you now. I'm just barely moving it. That's like probably a mil of movement on the line, and I had a couple of bleeps there, and that's vital for me. You know, if I'm fishing for big carp, if I'm fishing at long range, the last thing I want to do is be in a situation where the carp are getting away with it, or I'm getting line bites and I'm not actually getting any registration back at the alarm end. And with this plus and minus sensitivity, you can control what feeds back to the bank. If I move this from plus to minus and give you an idea of the change in sensitivity. Now, I've got it on 0 sensitivity. That's almost no sensitivity. I've had to almost pull line off the reel to get a bleep. And that's why when you're fishing rivers or flowing water and places where you're going to get a lot of sort of movement, things hitting the line, that's when the minus sensitivity comes into its own. And if you get a full-blooded run, you're going to get registration. But for sort of big carp situations, I would always recommend that you go on the plus setting and either put it on 1 or 2, but maybe even 3, okay? That's very important. Now, another time that I'd put it on minus sensitivity is when I'm fishing under the rod tops. Now, if fish are sort of coming in close and they're touching the line and the alarm head's on loud, the last thing you want is that alarm to keep beeping and potentially spook fish away. So my recommendation would be to put it on the minus setting and then maybe sensitivity 2 or 3. Now, that'll be more than sensitive enough to give you a sort of good screamer when it goes, but also you're likely to get the odd line bite to let you know fish are in the area. And also, more importantly, if fish have got away with it and have blown your rig out, you're likely to still get a decent registration then. So that's how I'd use them. Sensitivity that you can control from the maximum possible to the minimum to suit all fishing situations. That leads us on nicely to the RS Pro receiver. Now here I've got the TXI Plus alarm, which is the top of the range Delkim available, and it's paired perfectly with the RX Pro. Now in the top right hand corner, you've got the letters L and D. Now the L stands for local, and that means you've got up to 50 meters of range from your rods. So generally, if you're fishing on your rods and you're close to the tips, then keep them on local setting, and also that maintains the battery life the best. Moving on to the D, that stands for distance, and you've actually got up to 200 metres of range on the receiver. Quite unbelievable, really. So if a mate's likely to be that far away, then you know you've got the security of getting perfect range back on the receiver head. And talking about the LEDs, you can literally tune in loads and loads. I couldn't even tell you the number, but it's a lot of alarms that can go onto this awesome tiny bit of kit that does so much. Well, there you go, a brief look at the Delkim alarm range. There's also an EV model in the Delkim portfolio, which is slightly less expensive. However, just to reiterate, this sensitivity factor of a Delkim is vital. The vibration system really sets it apart from any other alarm on the market. And I'd seriously tell you now, do not invest in a roller buzzer. These are the ones that I would use above anything else in all conditions. There is nothing quite like a Delkim. Next stop, Delkim accessories. The Delkim boys back in the office have been busy working on some brand new accessories for 2012, and here's one of the latest. This is called the Black Box, and it's a tailor-made transportation tool for your prized Delkims. Let me open it up. It's worth pointing out that this is actually a working sample, so the finished one will have the slots cut out perfectly for the job. However, you're going to be able to fit in 4 Delkims, and if you like, you can have the hard cases left on them and also the D-locks. And there, a nice little slot for the RX Pro receiver also. Included in the inside is a little waterproof case, so you can put your Delkim accessories in there, such as your night lights, your duo carbs. It'll all fit in there, and it can be zipped up and taken to a lake, safe in the knowledge that they're never going to get damaged. It's a lovely hard case, a brilliant new piece of kit from Delkim. And let's move on to some of the other accessories, because they've now been building a real full system, the Delkim boys. Firstly, the snag ears. I think these are absolutely beautiful. The way they've made them, the way it just fits onto the battery sort of door on the back. It comes complete with its own battery door. You just take the other one off, slide the new one on, screw it in, and you're ready to go. And they just pop out. So when you finish fishing, take them off and they'll go in the case perfectly. And then working our way down here onto this Delkim sticker with the Korda logo. We get a lot of questions about these particular stickers. These were just a limited run done for Team Korda, and unfortunately they're not readily available. And moving on to the duo carb, this is a really clever bit of kit that Del Romang has sort of been the brainchild of. What it does is it basically transforms your sort of nightlight bobbin into a swinger, and that serves 2 purposes. Here I've got it on a slack line, and there's no chance of it sort of moving around in the wind, because that sort of duo carb keeps the stability. And also, when you get fast takes on a slack line, the last thing you want to do is have that sort of bobbin swing round the line and get tangled up. That stops that happening also. Just pulls up nicely, and you'll notice that very, very tighty light on the night light. I absolutely love it. You can have them matching your alarm colour or have it a different colour, whatever suits your fishing, and that just basically plugs in to the little socket underneath the Delkim, and any beep registered on the alarm is registered on the nightlight. And in effect, it's like a very, very clever isotope, and they just hang there beautifully. And if you sort of bring up the little sort of standing lights on there, if I keep that down for sort of 3 pips or 4 pips, 2, 3, 4, get some little lights come up, and what that means, I've got a constant, there'll be a constant light in here as well. So that really is like an isotope. Excellent, clever idea. And then let's move on to some of the other things in the range. They've got the D-lock now, and that means you can just detach the alarm from the bank stick and not have to keep screwing it in and out. Everything can sit there, and you can put your alarm away safely and put the bank sticks into the rod bag. And here's another new product that Delkim have just released. These are the D-stack weights that screw into the bottom of the night light. Again, you can have 1 on, 2 on, or even 3 or 4. It depends whatever suits the fishing situation. And they'll also work with some of the other bite indicators out there on the market, as long as the threads match. Overall, Delkim continue to work on a system that all works in tandem. They've also released some clothing. Here's the rather large and too many sizes too big for me polo shirt. There's also a fleece hat and a baseball cap. As always, Delkim continue to set new benchmarks in bite indication.
And there we have it, one absolutely stunning common carp from Gigantica. 3rd fish of the session, and I'm actually only fishing at night, working in the day. So I'm baiting up in the mornings, leaving the lines out, letting the fish have a free food, and then coming back and then catching stunning fish like this. So what we're going to do now is just run through the rigs what I'm catching them on.
Well, while we've been helping ourselves to loads of gigantic carp, this young man has come over to France to help us out, running around, working his socks off, but at night he's been getting them rods out and he's been doing the business. And Jake, I think it's only fair that we look at your rig. So Jacob, take us through it, mate. What we got there, talk about the hook bait and the setup and why you've chosen this particular one.
Well, from the start is a homemade banoffee pop-up, and we see Dan's been having great success on them. And then just a trimmed down boilie just to balance it so it critically goes down really slow and takes the weight of the hook.
Okay.
Moving down, you've got micro rig ring just to have that bit of like the blowback and the
so the movement there, so that captor hook is able to drop down when the fish move, get it in their mouth. That hook will hopefully move forward and drop down. Okay, and then let's talk about the actual hook and the shrink tube that you've got there. Why have you chosen that?
Well, I've got a size 6 captor curve.
Okay.
And then with
hence the little green cap.
Yeah. I do take it off before I put it in. Don't worry.
Yeah, make sure you do that.
And then with the shrink tube, I've got it following the eye.
Okay.
So it follows the curve and it's not too.
And the idea is that sort of acts as a little ridge to block that hook in place, yeah?
Yeah, and just grabs hold. I mean, the hook holds I've been getting, because it's barbless hooks.
Yeah.
Of each one's been absolutely nailed, so.
Brilliant. And then working down, I can see you've got some supernatural here.
Yep.
And then you're joining it to the fluorocarbon. What's the breaking strain of the supernatural?
It's £18.
Okay. And the knot itself?
It's the all-brine knot.
Okay, so that's really easy to do, isn't it?
Yep, just loop it over, round a few times, back through, and it holds nice and strong.
Yep, make sure at home that you always go back through the same way as you came through at the start of the knot, okay? So going up to the lead system, I can see here you've got the hybrid lead clip with the dark matter tubing. Why have you gone for a lead clip?
Basically because where I'm fishing, I've got weed to the right and snags to the left.
Yep.
So I'm fishing in between, and I want the lead to come off every single time, because I always fish heavy leads as well.
Yeah.
So every time I get a bite, I want the lead to come off.
And by the lead coming off, the fish are going to move up in the water and Jake's in direct contact with the fish. And Jake, it's proven really fruitful for you. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Don't really want to leave, to be honest.
Well, there you go. A great little setup that's caught Jake plenty of carp on this trip. Try it back at home and you'll be catching loads of carp.
How about that for a stunning creature? Nailed on the rig that I've just shown you. We'll slip it back and hopefully there's more to come.
It's difficult to single out one line from the Korda range that I love the most, but I've got to say for the last 5 years I've been using the Contour. We tested it for 3 years before its release and I put it through so many different situations and it never let me down. People wonder, why do you just bring it out in £12? Well, when we tested it for so long, and that was the best line, it was great for casting, and most fluorocarbons aren't great for casting. They're not very supple, but this one, it sinks like a brick, it's very abrasion resistant and nearly invisible. And when you're fishing pressured lakes in the UK and those carp are sort of coming under your rod tips, the last thing you want to do is spook them out of your swim. And with a fluorocarbon, you know, it's all draping down, sunk into the lake bed, and you're not spooking any carp in the area. And you also know when you hook into that carp of your dreams, it's not going to let you down. Even at £12 breaking strain, I've put it through loads of different situations where fish have taken me in reed beds, through lily pads, and I've just pulled them straight back out and there hasn't even been a chink in the Contour's armour.
The line I've used almost exclusively for the last 5 or 6 years is Contour. We field tested it for 4 years before we even brought it out, and during that period I've had loads of big fish from the UK on it, loads of English 40s. I've fished 120 yards at Wenton Country Park. I've fished right under my feet as well in really weedy conditions, and it always stands up to the job. I've caught fish over 70 pounds on it in France and fish from various waters over 50 pounds as well, and it just never lets me down. The reason I love it so much is because it sinks like a stone. It's on the bottom virtually straight away from the rod tip all the way out to where you're fishing. I always fish it super slack so the fish can come in, feed in the area, not come into contact with the lines, and it definitely gets me more bites. And it is super durable. Only comes in 033, which is £12, but that is all you need. I've had epic battles with really big fish going down the back of bars in the UK, pulling them back up through weed beds, getting them in every time. And you run your fingers down the line and there's no nicks or anything in it, so it lasts a lot longer than normal mono. Like all fluorocarbons, it's much harder to see the normal mono in the water, but my tip for extended use is keep it clean. So wind it back through an odourless baby wipe or a Thinking Angler's line cleaner, take all the grit off it, and it will last a very long time. It is more wiry than normal mono, so it doesn't cast quite as far. I use this stuff for my fishing up to 100 yards, but with pinpoint accuracy. And put it on a big spooled reel, something like a Daiwa wing cast or a Daiwa Basia. It'll absolutely fly off of those, and it'll cope with probably 90% of normal fishing situations. It does cost more than normal mono, but I think it's worth every penny.
£15 brown subline has to be my personal favourite. I use it for all situations up to 120 yards. My top tip would be to change this when I'm fishing in clearer water where the green comes into its own. I'll use this when I'm casting even over 120 metres, and in that situation I would use the £10 like I did at Gigantica last year and still manage to land impressive fish of 47 and 46 pounds. Get on it. Right, when on holiday venues like this, imagine 12 anglers all around the lake, all using free rods, all got semi-tight lines. Fish in these waters are always worried, always on the move, always trying to stay away from anglers. So in this sort of situation, all I'm trying to do is trying to keep my line down, and by paying out a bit of slack once you've sunk the line, before you put the bobbin on, just pay out a little bit more until it stops pulling up, and as soon as you know it stops pulling up, then you know it's down, out of the way. In this sort of murky water, brown subline is my first choice, £15. That'll allow for the weed, any snags that I might encounter. I'm not casting too far, 0.4 diameter, bulletproof. If I was fishing clearer water, I'd opt for the green myself. As for these stow indicators, I've taken the weight off the bottom here, and the reason I've done that is because I don't want to pull the line up off the bottom. I still want to have a bobbin on to get indication, and by these stow indicators having this little clip on the side, that allows me just to fish them on the tilt like that, very minimal with tension on the line, allowing it to stay down. Absolutely perfect. When fishing like that, if you have your Delkim set too sensitive, you often see this, people on the +6. Me personally, I like it sort of plus on the naught, and that'll roughly ½ inch before you get a bleep. That's enough. If it was a bit windy and there was a lot of like weed drifting into my lines, then I would go on to the negative. There's nothing worse than getting false bleeps keeping you awake all night. Bleeps you don't need to know about. Right, that's my top tip for these pressured holiday venues. Keep your line slack and your bobbins light. Doesn't matter how big they are when they look like this. 20 pounds of beautiful mirror carp from Skylake. This one was taken on my favourite braided presentation, incorporating cell bottom bait and a wide gape hook. I'll show you that in a minute.
We're going to talk rigs now with Mr. Peck, and what I can see him holding there is simplistic, I think is the best way to describe it. You're known for using very simple tactics. You catch a lot of big fish, so explain to us why you're using what you're using and what each thing does on the rig.
Okay, well basically I like to keep things as minimal as possible, so less things to go wrong.
Right.
What I'm using is an 18mm bottom bait, and when I'm using 18mm bottom baits I like to use braided hook links. Give it very natural movement, and the weight of an 18mm bottom bait will help prevent tangles.
Right, okay. So that's just supernatural, straight through?
Straight through.
Right, and tied on the hook with knotless knot?
Knotless knot, tied down level with the point, and the bait I always like to just brush off the bottom of the bend, if you can see there.
Right, and why is that?
I've just found that I don't get hook pulls like that.
Right, okay. So any shorter or longer can cause a hook pull for you?
Yeah, I've experienced that, yeah.
Right, okay. And then moving down?
Moving down.
Just onto the lead system?
Yeah, I've got a quick link with a figure of 8 loop knot. I'd use that only in the 25, I wouldn't do that in the 18.
And why is that?
Because you get reduced strength with a figure of 8 loop knot.
Right, okay.
If you're going to use the 18, you'll probably go for a link loop, you know, because you've got the added strength.
So you tie grinner or something like that to the link loop to
Yeah.
increase the breaking strain of the hook link.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a point worth making actually, because we do lots of breaking strain tests at work, and if you do a figure of 8 loop in braid, it does reduce the breaking strain. If it goes from 25 pound down to 19, doesn't really matter, does it?
No, no.
But if you're going 18 down to 14 or 13,
Yeah.
then you could be experiencing problems. And then just a hybrid lead clip there, just with a swivel lead on.
Yep.
Just nice and simple. Do you use swivel leads more than inlines or not?
I've been tending to in recent times, because everyone wants you to use on their fisheries like a system that drops the lead, and it's the easiest way and the best way, really, to be honest. That comes off pretty much on the take, especially with a big lead.
Right, okay, so if I hold that and then you pull against it, we can show everybody that's how easily it comes off.
Yeah, and that could be plugged in the bottom, and literally up off the bottom, shake its head, fish comes up.
Right, okay, cool. Let's put that back on there so everyone can see the full thing set up. The other thing I noticed you've got on is the new dark matter heavy tubing. How are you getting on with that?
Absolutely love it.
Right.
I've been using tubing more in recent years than lead core, because I used to use lead core avidly, you know, I wouldn't cast out about it. But I wondered whether it caught me more fish or I was just using it for the sake of doing it. And tubing definitely prevents tangles more than with braid.
Yeah.
It definitely prevents tangles more.
And that stuff, especially because it's so heavy, it just seems to keep the two apart, doesn't it?
Definitely, definitely.
Right.
And yeah, the way it lays over stuff, it's just absolutely beautiful. Whatever it's, yeah.
Yeah, it just picks up the contours of the bottom and.
Yeah.
Right. And if you were going to use a pop-up, what of that would you change?
Basically, pop-ups are lighter, so the braid is more prone to tangling with a pop-up. In this situation, I'm using a bag, so you could get away with it. A bag straight on the braid wouldn't matter. You could use a pop-up. But if I was casting it out as a single hook bait,
Because the hook bait's lighter, then you get more chance of a tangle.
you get no
Right.
separation between bait and lead during flight.
Right,
It's more
okay.
prone to frap up and wrap round itself.
Right. So what would you use then as a pop-up?
I've been using end trap in recent times since it
Right.
came out. I use it straight through, knotless knotted to the hook, boilie a little bit tighter to the hook for the
Yep.
pop-up. And I've got soft hair that's stripped, but then I would just make a little break about an inch down from the eye of the hook and just put a split shot on, give it a 5mm gap so the 5mm of braid showing, and that just allows the hook bait to sit up straight.
Right.
And a little crafty tip, just run your finger into the inner edge of
Just
it.
curve the inside.
Just curve it, yeah, and there's no need for shrink tube when you do that. And it sits there, it looks just like that, it's like lovely.
Wicked. Well, simple stuff, but it catches a lot of big fish.
Here's the proof of the pudding. A lovely 35-pound common from Sky Lake, taken on the rig I've just shown you. Use this rig anywhere and you can catch fish like this.
Daryl, you've been doing the tutorials, or Korda tutorials as we call them now, for the last, for this summer?
Yeah, since about May time.
Right, okay. And what are the big things that people have learnt when they've gone out with you for the day?
Well, I try to focus on like the 5 or 6 key points, that the core carp angling skills that if one of them's out will stop you catching. So if you can keep all these sort of 5, 6 core things correct, then the rest will come to you. You know.
Yeah. So what are they? What are these core
location
things?
is key. You can't catch.
Right.
You can't catch if they're not in front of you.
Yep.
Then you've got to present something they want to eat, which is a bait, a good bait,
Right. So choosing the right bait.
the right bait for the
Yeah.
situation.
And how often do people get it wrong?
All the time.
Right.
All the time. You know, look, I get it wrong at times. You know, but it's getting it wrong less often. You know.
Yeah. Yep.
So
And what else?
delivering that bait to a location where the carp can get it in, as in the spot.
Right.
And then it has to be delivered on a rig that's going to be prone to not tangling,
Yep.
so efficient,
Yep.
and the hook and bait size balanced, and just basically then you've got the main components to catch carp.
Right. So all the things that we take for granted,
Yeah.
that people are obviously missing by a mile,
Yeah.
again and again and again.
Yeah, it's the consistency of getting it right, just managing your rig in a way that you know that it's operating in the way you want it to,
Right.
and rather than getting your head fixated in things that aren't really
Loops
important.
and
loops and hinges.
hinges and all that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
So basic stuff that's going to get you loads of bites.
Yeah.
And what sort of things have happened when you've been doing it? What sort of catches have happened?
We've had probably 320 fish in a day, catches, like
Right.
in 12 hours and 24s. Thorpe Lee's prolific, you know, we've had good days spotting over zigs there.
Right.
Manor Farm, Biggleswade, we've had sort of catches of 20 fish with a few 20-pounders thrown in.
What, 20 fish in a day?
Yeah, 20 fish in a day.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Bigger fish?
Bigger fish, well, when we've done St John's, there's a shallow bit with weed and that down there where Adam's done really well.
Yeah.
And on there we've fished chods in the weed, and I've had a couple of punters with PBs of double-figure fish that have gone home with a 30-pounder in a 24-hour
Nice.
session. Yeah.
Nice. That
Yeah.
must feel good.
Yeah, it's great to pass on stuff and see what it does for other people's like confidence and how much they get out of it. Yeah.
Right. And do you get any feedback from these people after they've been out for a day with you or not?
Yeah, I get like texting going on, like see how they're going on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like to know that they've taken what I've shown them rather than forgotten about it. You know.
Yeah.
It's not just to come fish with me and catch on the day. It's hopefully you take the skills away and become a better angler for the lesson. You know.
Yeah, cool. And what about people of sort of higher levels? Is it just basic people you're getting, or are you getting people that want to just hone the nth degree?
Well, it's a mixture. You know, I've had quite a few birthday presents. You know,
Right.
people getting them as a treat.
Right.
And other people that are really looking to hone their skills, people that are fishing syndicate lakes and haven't caught anything from them, and they want to know what it is they're doing wrong.
Right, okay. So you can actually, you go to day ticket lakes, I take it,
Yeah,
but you go to syndicates as well?
Yeah, we've got 5 or 6 venues that we've got permission to take people to.
Right.
But if you've got a water in mind where you fish and you want to take me there, if you can get permission for me to come, then I'll come to you.
Right, okay, cool. So I'll take it you do day sessions and 24-hour sessions, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Right, and how would somebody book that up?
Well, if you go onto the Korda website, on the front page, the home page,
Yep.
on the right-hand side at the top, there's Korda tutorials. Go in there, there's a phone number, speak to John Mann, and he'll tell you when I'm available, and we'll work something out.
Excellent, excellent. Well, a day out with him is going to catapult you forward many years of angling experience. And if you go with him and he learns and you don't, give me a ring, I'll employ you.
A lovely skylight mirror, £39, beautiful. Book yourself a Korda tutorial and I'll have you catching fish like this in no time at all.
This is a brand new rod and reel combination from Daiwa. First of all, the rod, it's a longbow DF, but it's a 12-foot 3 3/4. So this came out of the day we spent with Nori, one of the Japanese rod builders. We took him fishing for the day, showed him how far we had to cast, showed him what we wanted from a rod, and he's made a longbow with an even faster recovery and a heavier test curve. So if you want to fish at long range and you can't stretch to the infinities, this is definitely what I recommend. When we were testing these, they were going almost as far as a 13-foot 3 3/4 infinity. And that's me and Daryl putting them through their paces. There was only a few yards in it. It's very fast recovery on the rod, much faster than the other longbows in the range. So it's going to feel a lot more responsive in your hand. And if you know how to cast, you'll get 150 yards with this. Same styling, obviously, as all the DF range. So you've got a 50mm butt ring down to 40, 30, 25, 20 and a 16mm tip. Very, very important if you're using heavy lines. That nice minimal styling you can see on the rod there. So all nice black whippings, a long handle, just like the rest of the range, exactly the same length there. Very, very important for getting the tip moving and just nice and minimal the whole thing. And then moving on to the reel, this is brand new as well. This is the Crosscast X. 5 ball bearings in this one. There's 3 in the S, which is the black version that's been out about a year. And this one, as you can see, has got that lovely line clip on it, just like the Beziers. Very, very kind to the line, easy to clip underneath. I found them to be really smooth. It's a good looking reel as well, and you can see got lovely line lay on there. Comes with a spare spool as well, so I've got 12-pound contour on this one. I'm only fishing here about 65, 70 yards out, but if I wanted to go for extreme range, I'd put the tapered subline on, and like I say, with this combination, you're probably going to get 150 yards out of it. So a very, very affordable combination of rod and reel that's going to do everything from under your feet to 150 yards out. And there we have it, a very chunky mid-20 from Skylake, one of 3 fish in a night, all taken on that IQD rig that was so successful at Gigantica. Absolutely nailed on that they were, and all fished over a big spread of boilies, baited up with a throwing stick. So we're going to get this fella back and look at how to use the throwing stick. The weather is absolutely biblical now. I've got a lovely northwesterly blowing into me. I've not had a bite for quite a few hours, so rather than sitting here all day and waiting for the action to start again in the evening, which it seems to be doing, I'm going to try and force a bit of action by putting some more bait in. And baiting with the right quantity and at the right time is absolutely key on these venues. What a lot of people do wrong, they go out for dinner, 6 o'clock, come back to their swim, start baiting up about 7 o'clock just as the fish are starting to show, and then ruin their chances. And the other big mistake is get up first thing in the morning, see a fish jump out, start baiting up over the top of them, scare them all away, and you've ruined 2 feeding spells. So it's now the middle of the day. Like I say, there's been no action for a little while, so I'm going to put some bait in, only about 1 kilo over each set of rods. I'm fishing 2 and 2, just about 1 kilo, just enough to bring the fish back in to get a bite. If I put 3 or 4 kilos out, then I'm probably not going to get a bite until the night time. So you need to think about putting just enough in to get another bite, and then do your big baiting before dinner rather than after dinner. Go up and rest your swim for an hour, have dinner, come back, cast the rods back out, the fish might already be there. So the throwing stick, first of all, the easy stick as it's called, because it is so easy to use. Long slim shaft on it, very, very lightweight, and that unique J shape at the top. That creates backspin, makes the baits go further. A long slim handle, so you can use it one-handed or two-handed. And in the end there, we've got a hole just to stop the vacuum being created, which sucks the baits back in the stick and means they don't go as far. This now comes in 3 sizes. This is the 20mm, there's a 24mm and a 30mm now. So for you European anglers that are using big boilies, we've listened to you and there is a stick to suit you. To go with it, I've got my AQUA boilie caddy. I've got about 1 kilo of 20mm cell in there. And what I've done with the cell and the new grains is I've soaked them in a little bit of vegetable oil. The oil soaks into the baits, and that has several advantages. One, it stops the baits splitting as they come out of the stick. The other major advantage is when the fish start eating it, you start getting a slick of oil on the surface of the lake because they're chewing the boilies, the oil comes up to the top and you know they're out there feeding, which is a brilliant indicator. The third thing is it preserves them a little bit more. So on long sessions, when you've got no freezer facilities, a little dribble of oil, shake them up and put them in a bucket will make them last a bit longer as well. So my stance, I'm going to put 4 out at a time. No marker float back in the swim because I know 4 goes about the right distance. And just watch my technique. It's almost like a cast. So you're starting off with your weight on the back foot and then transferring your weight through. Those first ones went a bit high, didn't go far enough, so I'm aiming a little bit lower now to get them out there. And I prefer the two-handed technique. I think it gives you more control over accuracy and it just spreads the load so you don't get that horrible tennis elbow feeling when using one hand. And what I'll do is I'll spread these baits over probably, I don't know, half the size of a tennis court, something like that, with 2 or 3 rods amongst them. In this case I'm using 2. And just keep the bait going in at regular intervals. It's the guys that sit there and let the swim go dead and then just bait up once a day just before it gets dark. They're the ones who are going to get 1 or 2 bites a day at the most. The guy that can be bothered to rebait at the right time is the one who's going to get loads more bites. So that is the throwing stick as well. Adam was using it. It's a very good effect at linear, but he couldn't do what I'm doing because of the seagulls. Fortunately, we haven't got any over here, but he was baiting up in the dark. And obviously with this method, maximum effort with 4 baits, he's getting them out there. So I know I can do the same thing in the dark, and that's exactly what Adam was doing. Or he was just putting out maybe 20 baits until the seagulls turned up, and then he was just stopping. You see a lot of people in the UK, they carry on baiting up when the gulls are there and they're getting every single one. If they are there, just stop completely, let them disappear, and then half hour later put a few more out. So that's all the tricks for the throwing stick. Use it to your advantage and you can build a really big hit. Another lovely dark Sky Lake mirror taking over the baited area. Obviously using the throwing stick, it just shows if you get the baiting right, you can turn a good session into a brilliant one. So think about what you're doing, put it in at the right time, and you'll be getting loads of lovely beauties just like this one.
One of the great things about doing this DVD is having the pleasure of using some of the newest bivvies on the market. Stood proudly next to me here is the M3 Duo by AQUA. So why is it so great? Well, firstly, the AquaTex material, a running theme through all of the AQUA bivvies. Water just wicks away from it, and also this AquaTex doesn't put any stress on the seams or the zips, a vital factor when you're trying to maintain your bivvy for a long time. Let's talk about the front of the bivvy. Well, I've got it set up session style. This whole thing is removable. At the moment, these mozzie infills are covered with the front because I don't want rain coming in. However, if it's sunny, I can simply open these up and have the old bivvy sort of with these mozzie windows looking out to the lake and onto the peak itself. Now, this peak is removable. Some people like them, some people hate them. Every now and again, I end up butting my head against there, but that's not a problem for me because the added features really do help. Rain doesn't get into the porch of the bivvy. Also, you'll notice I've got my throwing stick resting on the top. You know, I always know where it is. I can put it there. It's nice and secure. And when it comes to resting your rods, when you're getting your rig sorted, again, they've got these very handy rod straps just there to just enable, you know, sorting your rigs out, making it a bit easier. Moving on to the rest of the bivvy, one of the newest features is that the pram hood system now has 3 brakes in it as opposed to 2. So you've got 4 poles, the whole thing is a lot more compact, making transportation a lot easier. Onto the back of the bivvy, you've got another mozzie air vent. At the moment I've got it closed, it's raining, so it's all down, so no rain comes into the back of the bivvy. However, if it gets sunny and I want it open, then I know fresh air is going to be flowing right through the bivvy. How do you set this bivvy up? Well, it couldn't be simpler. You've got 2 options. You can either use the ground sheet or the tensioning straps that are provided. I'm using the ground sheet because I'm on a longer session. I don't want the bivvy getting soaking wet as the rain comes in. So once I've laid the ground sheet down, making sure that the AQUA logo is facing the direction that I want my bivvy front to be. I always have it facing the lake so I can see what's going on. So the AQUA logo facing the lake, everything's down. Take the bivvy out of the bag and connect all of the poles together. Once you've done that, lay it down on the ground sheet and then take the tensioning corners and sort of hook them onto the underneath of the ground sheet where you'll see 2 sort of connections like that. So the two meet, do it on the other side, and that'll basically give you a nice arc in the pram hood. Then take 2 pegs, you go to the back of the bivvy, and you actually hook the ground sheet onto the inside of the bivvy. They've got these little sort of rings that hook onto the ground sheet. Do that on each side, put the pegs in, and that'll give it stability. Come now to the front. When I was setting this up, the actual front wasn't zipped onto it, so I just put 1 peg in the corner, pulling the whole bivvy up, and then the next thing that I did was to actually zip the front onto the bivvy. Once I've done that, you've got the whole front up, and you can put the 2 front pegs in. Once you've done that, the whole thing will be up, and go round and do each pegging point and make sure that the bivvy is nice and tight. Once you've done that, you come to putting the peak on. Like I said, it's actually removable, but these poles get threaded through and push them onto the sort of 2 pistons that stick out from each side, push them down, push it on, get the tension in there, and then you go on to actually put in the tension in bars through the hole. These come with the bivvy, put it from the back and work your way to the front, and then the peak will be nice and rigid and set lovely and stable. So what's included for the price? Well, in the bag you'll get your tensioning straps, the brilliant frame support, very durable pegs, and a clear window infill. In my opinion, once again, AQUA have raised the bar. Why do you need Korda cover? Nobody ever thinks they're going to be a victim of tackle theft, but tackle theft is at an all-time high. And whether it's from the car, from the bank, or from your home, we've tailor-made an affordable angling insurance policy that is going to cover you for every eventuality. We meet so many people at events. I receive loads of messages on Facebook of people that have had their gear stolen and they were not insured, and that's the worrying thing. People are still going fishing, risking their gear being stolen and having to replace it all at a massive cost. So don't delay any longer. Visit the website here or ring the number and get yourself covered before it's too late.
And how about that for a lump of carp? 44.5 pounds. Well chuffed with this one. This is on the longer range spot, about 75, 80 yards out there. And once we do some pictures, obviously we're going to return him to his home and then show you the all important rig that we caught him on. Wicked. This is the rig I've been getting all my action on at Skye. I'm boilie fishing, remember, so I'm baiting up with 20mm cell boilies, probably a couple of kilos each day. I'm fishing one of these fellas over the top. That's one of my homemade slow sinking hook baits. That one's a mixture of different fruit flavours, so I've got pineapple, I've got orange, grapefruit and tangerine in there, and a bit of sweet aid as well. I've made it a creamy white colour on purpose, so it stands out from all the free offerings, but it's not popped up off the bottom. Literally the hook is laying flat and the bait is just bending up off the bottom to take away the weight of the hook. That's attached to the ever effective IQD rig. So exactly the same setup as has been successful for me at Gigantica. So a size 4 cap to curve. This time I've used the dark green one just to blend in with the bottom. It's very dark on the bottom here. The water's very murky and muddy, so I've darkened everything down to blend in with that. Still the 15-pound IQ2, that's a perfect complement to that size 4 curve, just stiff enough to kick out of the eye of the hook. And I always make sure that I steam it so that it doesn't kick out of the eye at too aggressive an angle, and then just keep it nice and tight in the rig safe so that it's kicking out and turning the hook but not closing the gape up too much. And then moving down the hook link, I've got a sinker on there with some of the dark matter putty round it to hold it down flat on the bottom, and also just to help the hook turn and catch hold as well. I've probably got an 8-inch hook link on there. The lead's not burying into anything. I'm getting a nice thud on the bottom, and I'm guessing it's probably quite sandy out there. Pulled the marker float back a bit, and I haven't picked any weed or anything up. The baits are coming back in smelling a little bit, so I'm guessing there's a bit of detritus on the bottom, maybe a bit of dead weed. So having that slow sinker on lifted up off the bottom is going to help that. And then down onto the lead system, as I've said, this is going to feature very heavily in my fishing. The cog system, centre of gravity, this time with the flat swivel pair version. This is a 3.5 that I'm using. Like I say, I'm getting a nice thud down on the bottom. Basically, when I get a bite, it's pulling out of there, so the fish is picking the lead up from the heavy part first. You can see that instantly, and then that's pulling out, and then it's onto the lead clip, and on a really fast take, that's pulling away as well. You're losing the lead if it gets caught in anything, but if it doesn't, you should get the lead back most times. So let's put that back on again. This is one of the quick release lead clips that we've brought out. Same as the original one with the 2 holes in it. Just no serrations on the back of the clip, if I can show you that there. So the rubber connector still fits on reasonably tightly, but will push away quite easily if the lead's sliding off of that lead clip. And then moving down onto the anti-tangle system. With this cog system, I think it's important to have something behind the lead to stop it all tangling. In this case, I've got the dark matter tubing, very, very heavy, a nice thick diameter to stop everything tangling, and there's just enough there. If I can fold the hook link back against it, you can see I've got probably 6 inches still above it. You don't want it too short because there's a chance that the hook link and the main line can come into contact, and that's when it'll tangle. So not a great big long length, just sort of a foot, maybe 18 inches of that, and that's going to help everything to lay down flat on the bottom. And of course I'm using the contour main line, and that's fished really slack with the bobbins just hanging down, so everything's laid on the bottom so those fish can come in and feed with confidence. So that's my #1 choice for fishing this lake at the moment. If you're casting onto a nice hard bottom, that's what I recommend. This is the Euro Sniper tripod from CYGNET. If you're doing long sessions and you want to get an accurate weight on the fish, this is what I recommend. So we're going to zero up the retainer sling from Tracker first of all. So that weighs just about £3. So we're going to roll those Reuben Heaton scales back to 0. There we go. And I've got the fish in the retainer sling in the edge, exactly the same one as that, so I know it's going to weigh the same. The water drains out of these really quickly. Really good product. You can leave the fish in them. If you catch them in the night and you're allowed to sack them up, you can leave the fish in them and then just get them straight out in that. And of course that's what we're using to get the fish out of the water when we first catch them. We're rolling the net up and putting the fish inside the retainer sling and picking it out in that, so there's no risk of damage to the fish. So to take that one off, obviously I've got my mat underneath there, my Tracker mat underneath there. Get that out of the way and get the fish out of the water. There it is, needles nice and still, £31 14 ounces, well pleased with that. Just to point out a couple more features on this tripod, you've got double thumb screws there, and they're both made of brass, so they bite into that alley really well. And there's also an attachment for the foot, so you can put a peg in that as well and keep it all nice and solid so it doesn't blow over if it's really, really windy. So a nice stable product. If you're doing long sessions, you're going to get exactly the right weight out of that. And there she is, what a beauty. Built for power, this one. Absolutely beasted me on the new 12-foot 3 3/4 longbows, and they've been absolutely brilliant this week at playing a fish. 16 bites now, 16 in the net. So a fantastic casting tool and a brilliant rod to play fish on as well. Well chuffed.
I've used the stows now for the past 12 months, and I've got to admit I was totally shocked by just how sensitive they were and how much they transformed my bite indication. Now let me explain how I like to use them, because a lot of my fishing over the last couple of years has been done on small lakes and at close quarters. So generally I'm fishing a totally slack line. Now when you use the stows that way, you can have them hanging on the line, but I like to do it this way. So the reel line from the reel right through the rod is totally slack. Once I've done that, I've paid out enough slack and I know my fluorocarbon or my main line is sunk to the bottom. What I actually do is take the stow bobbin, make sure it's fully extended there from the hockey stick, and then pull it tight from the reel as opposed to slack, and then pull it through the clip. We'll do that again, just get it nice and tight. So now what you've actually got is it looking quite unorthodox, because the bobbin's almost running parallel to the floor, but it makes it so sensitive, because normally with a slack line you won't get any sort of registration unless there's a fish on, you know. But this way, because the line's caught in that clip, it's giving resistance from this side of the alarm, and with just barely any movement, like that is probably 2 mm movement, with the sensitivity on Delkimon Plus and just 1, I'm still getting a fair bit of indication. So if fish are in the swim and I'm getting the odd liner, or you know, they've got away with it, then I'm going to know everything that's going on, and that is all thanks to the stow. There's so many different ways you can use them. There was one occasion at Brasenose on the linear complex where I was actually fishing zigs and a solid bag next to each other. I was spodding over the top of the two of them, and I swear I've cast the two out and the zig rod wouldn't stop bleeping. And that proved to me just how many times those fish are taking that bait in and out, and it was no coincidence that it was right next to the solid bag rod which was on the bottom, that didn't bleep. The zig rod 17 times before I actually had a take. And that was all thanks to the stow for letting me know what was going on in the swim. I've got to say, in the last 12 months, I've become a total stow devotee.
We had to put this Force 12 clothing on from AQUA. It's so good. I've used it all summer. 100% waterproof, breathable as well. And if I show you the inside, totally unlined, and that's really important for the summer. If you're pushing a barra, you get to your swim, you're sweating already, so you're wet on the inside anyway. Not with this stuff because it is so lightweight. Both of them packed down to absolutely nothing, come in a little tiny bag like that. So I take them with me all the time, and the bottoms I wear, if I'm doing fish pictures, I'll put the bottoms on whatever the weather, and it just stops your trousers getting soaking wet. I'll zip that up, show you the other features. Nice high collar on it as well, and that unravels and turns into a hood, and you've got a nice stiff bit at the front that creates a peak so you don't get the rain on your face when you're baiting up and that sort of stuff and playing a fish. And then these little fellas on the end there just do up nice and tight, so when you're playing a fish and it's raining, you haven't got the rain running down your arms. So that's the Force 12 clothing from AQUA. More expensive than normal fishing clothing, but worth every penny. There are two new chairs in the Daiwa Mission range. First of all, the 6-leg bed chair, and most importantly, it's extremely lightweight. That's an aluminium frame on there. As you can see, nicely padded, very tightly sprung as well, which makes it more comfortable and very, very affordable. And then this fella that I'm sitting on, this is the Mission day chair, a luxury guest chair. It's absolutely just so comfortable. I'm definitely going to be taking this to Walthamstow when I'm doing my day sessions. Just having it a little bit higher at the back like that and being able to recline it just makes it just super, super luxurious. And it's got quite a big footprint on it as well, so you can put it on top of your trolley, put all your gear on top of it like you would a bed chair, and you're away. So they are the two new chairs from Daiwa, well worth looking out for. These are the two new rucksacks in the Mission range. First of all, the Session rucksack, 110 litre capacity. On the top there, you've got a space for all your pop-up pots and all bits and pieces in there. The thing I like about these, they stand up on their own and they've got a nice sort of rigid surround to them. So lots of stuff goes in there, it doesn't collapse in on itself. Get absolutely acres of stuff in there. Then a big pocket on the front, obviously for your tackle box or buzzer bars or whatever, and then two pockets on the outside that zip open nice and easily. And if I can turn that round, got really nice padded strap in there, ergonomically designed so it sits on your back really well, walk long distances with that, and then a neoprene handle for lifting it up and getting it in the van and stuff. And then the 40 litre roving rucksack, same design, same top part to it for your pop-up pots and all your different bits and pieces. Obviously nowhere near as big a cavity inside, but if you're fishing with a trolley and you're only going to put a little bit of gear in there, that'd be brilliant. Or if you're doing day sessions, that'd be really good as well. The same big pockets on the outside and the same nice padding on the back. Let's have a look at their carryalls. This is the Mission carryall, 70 litre capacity. You can see loads of room in there. I'd get all my stuff in there, camera bag, bits, bags, all that sort of stuff. I could use that for my own fishing, definitely. Big pockets at the front, scales, sacks and all that sort of stuff. Get all your spods and what have you in there. Bits, bags, leads and all that sort of thing in there. Loads of room in that one and a nice padded strap on it as well. And then in the Infinity range, this is the Stuff It All carryall. So if we just zip that open, it's more like a sports bag sort of design. You see in there, that just lends itself to being a clothes bag or a food bag for a long session. It's got a hard bottom on it, so it's nice and protected on the underside. It's going to keep your clothes nice and dry if you're doing a week session. And then you've got a gauze bit on the inside there for putting stuff in, and even a bit there for your passport and all that sort of thing if you're going away. So those are the carryalls. Let's have a look at the rod bags. This bad boy is the 6-rod holdall from Daiwa, again under the Mission banner. Two nice neoprene carrying straps there for putting it into the motor. And then if we turn it over, loads of pockets on the outside. So we've got a big long pocket, runs all the way along for your landing net and everything. Get the pole and the net in there. another pocket there for your long sticks and another one there for your short bank sticks as well. And then if we open it up, you can see how the 6 rods fit inside. So you could take 3 unmade up rods as well, if that's what you want to do, and then also 6 rods there. So 3 going that way, 3 going that way, straps to hold them all down tight, nice padding at the top to protect the tip rings as well. And if this one's too bulky for you, there's a 3 rod version as well, obviously, where the rods only go one way, and it's got a nice little pocket there for your butt eyes to go into to protect those. The same pockets on the outside for your net and all your poles. So between the 2 of them, they've got everything covered.
Love them or hate them, pods definitely have a place in carp fishing. I've got to admit, I've not been a massive fan of rod pods in the past. However, CYGNET supplied 2 pods for this DVD, and I've had the pleasure of using one for the last week, and I've got to say I've been totally impressed by it. This one's called the Grand Sniper Deluxe Pod, and it is so versatile and can be transformed to suit any fishing situation. Now, as you can see, I've jacked the front legs up at the moment, but these are the legs, these are the shorter legs that come with it, okay? But there's also a 36-inch version available, along with 24-inch back legs. You can put them whichever way you like. What I also love about it is this very, very clever quick lock buzzer bar design. These literally just screw in. They've got little stumps at the end of the buzzer bars. They just slot in and can be locked in place with no messing around. And this is another very clever bit. I've turned the alarms down. So if you've got the whole pod jacked up, you just loosen up these 2 bolts at the top, and depending on the height that you've got the pod, if you're fishing Euro style and you want it right up there, you'd put on the sort of big legs that come with it. And look, you can actually turn these down, which will mean when your rods are up in the air, you've got perfect bite indication. You're not sacrificing anything by jacking them up. Now, I've actually got these quite high, considering the sort of fishing that I'm doing. Sky Lake's a small lake, it's not sort of a range water, you're not out there a long way, but I've got a lot of marginal weed. So just having the option of jacking these legs up at the front and having it a little bit higher is really, really important. It's made with H9 grade black aluminium tube, which makes it not only sturdy, but also very lightweight. And I tell you what's impressed me the most is I do a lot of fishing locked up, and I've always been worried that pods will almost fall over on a take when you're fishing locked up. But I've had a couple of real ferocious bites on the pod during this week at Sky Lake, and it's just stood still, stood firm, and done me proud. And I've got to admit, I'll be using this pod all over again in the future. You know, when you go to a lake and there's hard gravel like there is here, you don't have to mess around with the old bank sticks. You can just put them in, and this CYGNET pod is definitely one for the future for all of you to explore. There's another pod in the range called the Quick Lock Deluxe, and that's available in actually 2 different sizes, a 26-inch to 45 and a 32 to 57. Once again, that's really totally versatile. It's got different length sticks for the front of it. It comes complete with 3 rod buzzer bars, and again, like I say, you can use it in any condition. That is probably one for the English fishing, and this, the Grand Sniper Deluxe, is what I'd use for Euro fishing and this type of situation when you want those tips up and over any sort of debris or weed in the margins. One final point worth adding, they both come complete with excellent carry cases. You can put your buzzer bars away, there's total protection, and the Grand Sniper Deluxe also comes complete with 4 rod buzzer bars as well. In my opinion, these are really, really good pods, and if you are a pod angler and looking for a new one, then look no further. If this DVD leaves you wanting more information and more interaction with Team Korda and Team Guru, then be rest assured that our work on the web offers just that. Korda.co.uk and tackleguru.com are websites bursting with information. The sites cover exclusive news, dedicated rig sections, but it gets even better. Our huge library of past TV work from Thinking Tackle, underwater filming and previously unseen video from the team's travels are available on our sites. Talking of teams, maybe you want direct interaction with its members. Well, that's possible too. In fact, we pride ourselves on this. Tom Dove, Daryl Peck, Jake Warble, Dee Macy, Steve Ringer, yours truly and many of the others have dedicated Facebook pages along with the official Korda fan page. The rest of the team are all Twitter fanatics with even live feeds on both Korda.co.uk and tackleguru.com. Don't miss out. Follow the team online. It's been a great year for the Guru brand. We took on a new consultant in the name of Dean Macy, former gold medalist. We've been working on a brand new season of Fishing Gurus. It's been brilliant, covering all styles of coarse fishing. Here's some of the best technical sections.
Well, Adam, my first question was going to be how you're doing. That's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Not too bad. There's a few fish feeding now. It's took a little while to get them going.
Yeah.
Obviously, most of the fish are swimming around on the top, but I've chosen my favourite method, actual method feeder fishing.
Right.
So I've gone for that approach. A little bit of bait going in now. Seems to be bringing quite a few nice sort of sized fish.
They are stunning.
Beautiful fish.
When they look like that, they do not have to be big, do they?
No, and they pull the rod right round as well. So it's all good for
I couldn't believe, I've seen your rod from over there when we were with Steve earlier on. You literally seem to be in the last sort of 90 minutes just won a chuck almost.
There's a few there now, yeah. So it's good fun, and obviously you never know what you're going to catch next. So yeah, it's a nice sized fish. Let's put it back and try and catch another.
But this is what you do best though, isn't it? I mean, you match anglers, you can sit in one peg and you can get the absolute maximum out of it every single time. And you were saying earlier on that the first 90 minutes of the session was pretty slow. How did you decide how you was going to build it up, and how did you go about it?
Well, basically I thought, you know, it's a lovely venue, loads of features. Those fish are going to be running along the features, so
it's not hard to spot them.
No, and they're pretty colourful, so they show themselves. And I thought, right, if I keep going on the method, the fish are generally just swimming around the surface, but I thought if we keep plodding away on the method, putting plenty of particle in, plenty of bait, see what happens. And they've just switched on now. It's
well, it's
great.
obviously working, so show us your rig.
It's dead simple. Just using an 8-pound drag line to a simple method feeder, an elasticated method feeder, which is simply attached. All we do is I have a little twist in my line with a little loop on the end. So
what does the twist do?
Basically, all I do is when you're catching a lot of fish, is your line's rubbing against your landing net head. So I just like to double up the line and the last sort of like 18 inches of my line.
Clever.
So it's, you know, it's
double
just
the abrasion resistance, a little bit more strength and stuff like that.
And also it gives, it sits flatter on the deck as well. 2 lengths of line, it's a lot heavier, sits nice and flat, so you get less liners and less.
I notice you've got a little crafty sinker up there as well.
Yeah, a little crafty sinker just to help pin it down. If you fish a tight line on a venue like this where there's lots of fish, you're just going to get liners. They move your feeder about, pull your bait about, and you just don't get the perfect presentation. So simple, dead easy to attach. Just limp it over, and that's it. And then you've got a tail rubber that pulls over the top. So a small elasticated feeder, just it's got black hydro elastic in, which is ideal, just cushions the fish.
Right, well, load it up for us.
Okay, mate, it's simple. Best hook bait at the moment has been luncheon meat. So I sort of pick a cube. This has just been through a 6mm cutter, so they're just standard 6mm pieces. Thread it through just on a normal needle. I've got a little bait band there off the back of the hair, and then all I do is basically
see, that's clever. I've not seen that bait band before.
And then just pull the bait band in, and then and that will just hold into position. So that's fine. It's just dead quick and easy.
And Steve, before you chuck that back out again, talk us through the actual rig, because it looks very, very simple.
It is very simple. I'll run it through right from the start. Literally, I've got a 6-pound drag line main line.
Okay.
You get a little, what I call like a tail rubber cap that comes with the flat method feeder. You thread that onto the main line. Then I tie overhand loop.
Right. Is that a double or a single overhand loop?
It's a double.
Right, okay.
So I've got the loop with the cap above. Then it's a case of clipping the method feeders on and off.
Right, okay.
There's a little clip on top of the feeders. The loop literally inside the clip like that. It's just for speed. So when I'm catching a lot of fish, I've got like 3 method feeders on the go, so I can unhook a fish, unclip it.
Yeah, I can see you've got 2 set up in your
just
bowl
saves
already.
time. The more time in a match you're in the water, the more fish you can catch.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? In a tight match where you need 2 or 3 pound in it, that extra 5 minutes you spend in the water makes all the difference. So then you've got your XA feeder.
Right. And now that one's got elastic through it. You do, I mean, there's 2 styles, isn't there, with and without elastic. Talk us through why you actually chose to use the elastic today.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'd always prefer to use elastic if possible.
Right, okay.
The reason being, it acts as a shock absorber when the fish around the net, particularly with like small fish in the 2 to 4 pound bracket.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have seen when I'm playing fish, the elastic's out, it's just sort of bouncing, it just cushions it and stops hook pulls.
Yeah. The small fish tend to shake their heads really vigorously around the net, don't they?
Yeah.
And that's why the hook pulls tend to happen quite a lot.
Yeah, the beauty with this system as well, the reason it's called X-Safe is literally when it's all in place, the elastic can actually pull through the bottom of the feeder.
Right, okay.
So it's a safe way of fishing an elasticated system.
Yeah.
I mean, elasticated methods have got some bad press over the years because they can be tether rigs. But the way this one's worked, when it's actually set up with the cap in on the line, if the main line should break above, the elastic can pull straight through the bottom of the feeder.
Perfect.
Right, onto this sort of end tackle. I've got a 4-inch hook length of 019 end gauge.
Right.
Then I've got a size 14 QM1.
Right,
I'm alternating
nice.
between QM1s and MWGs.
Right, okay.
They're both good hooks, both suited to the sort of baits I'm fishing.
Right.
Then instead of having like the conventional sort of hair loop,
Okay.
I've got a little bait band,
Yeah.
and I'm banding either an 8mm or a 6mm pellet.
Okay, and they're just normal standard pellets. I think you got.
There's a mixture of coarse pellets, there's some slightly higher oil pellets, just
Yeah.
a mixture of the two, to be honest. And I mean, I've been alternating between the 6 and the 8.
Yeah.
When there's a lot of fish in the swim, definitely the 8.
Right.
It's a bigger bait, acts as a target for any fish that are feeding on top of the feeder.
Right.
When there's not so many, a 6 just tricks them fish that are a little bit more wary and are getting used to feeding just purely on the little micros.
Gotcha,
So
yeah.
small pellets then is going to blend in, trick that fish that's a bit cagey. But when there's a lot of fish in the swim, put a big 8mm on,
Yeah.
and they'll really target it.
Well, have a look at this. 37 pounds, 4 ounces of stunning Sky Lake common carp. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we've exhausted every last megabyte of space on this DVD. We've brought you plenty of new tackle, tactics and tips. I've got to give a big thank you out to all the sponsors who've been a massive support on this DVD, the great guests who've brought all that invaluable information, and more importantly, these stunning carp that just keep on coming. Amazing, amazing creatures that without them, the DVD would be nothing. Thank you all at home for your ongoing loyalty and support, and thank you for watching, and see you on the bank sometime.